It's time. It is time. Just give me just a few minutes to check on everything. I'm trying to, as I usually do. I try to have so many feeds going, and I want to make sure that I can see the chats because sometimes I miss the chats that come through. And so, come on in. Come on in. Good evening. Good evening. Come on in. Come on in. Let me make sure you guys can hear me. Hello, hello, hello. All right. I have to do my own testing. I have to do my own testing here to make sure that you guys can see me, to make sure that you can hear me. It is time for real, for real. It is time for real, for real. I am ready tonight. I am ready tonight to connect with you. And I hope you have a few moments to connect with me. And let's see if we can strengthen one another, right? That's what it's about. Seeing if we can strengthen one another and you know, just do what we do, right? Is what we say, what we say. Anyway, AK Ministries, cultivating gems and letting the you shine through. What is it? Who are you? Who is that diamond, that jewel that God created? Are you shining brightly so that He can get the glory and that He can use you to help upbuild others? That's what this is about. That's what this is about. I need to pull up another screen over here. Guys, just bear with me. I just want to make sure that I have you all. Uh, okay. Where's my other screen? Okay, I just leave it like that. Hopefully, you guys can see me. My vision is to be an inspiration to encourage others to live purposefully, to allow life's experiences to strengthen your soul and cultivate you into the gem that God intended for you to be, shining bright through all circumstances. And I'm here to foster healing from life's most challenging experiences, to strengthen the soul and encourage wholeness through acceptance and forgiveness. It takes both. It takes us to accept what has happened, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, whether it was done to us or whether we did it to someone or, whatever. We still have to be able to accept it and to forgive, whether you have to forgive yourself, whether you have to forgive someone else, whether it's a multiple amount of people you have to forgive. It's whatever it takes for you to shine, for you to continue to move forward, for you to feel whole, right? So AK Ministries empowers individuals to recognize the origin of their disappointments and pain. Where is it all coming from? We have to get to the root of the matter in order for there's a healing that's not a complete healing. There's a brush over, um, maybe some of the pain is gone, but it didn't really heal properly because you didn't deal with everything that caused it, the origin of it. So sometimes you have to almost relive some of these things that we've tried to just uh, get through without doing the right process to get healed properly. So accept ownership of your personal triggers and to accept the complete healing from Jesus Christ. Let him let yourself allow yourself to be vulnerable when you need to be. It's really healthy for you to be able to allow yourself to get to a place where you really touching on the source of where your disappointments and pain is coming from. You have to be vulnerable, and allow yourself to open up and feel again. It's a process. So digging deep within your soul to let the gem inside you shine through. And that's what AK Ministries mainly is about. Just trying to help you get to the core of the things that bother you most, that may be keeping you from being the best you that you can be. Sometimes we go through stuff and like, I'm not giving myself completely anymore because it just leaves me open for hurt again and for disappointments. And I remember just last week, I think I made a statement to someone about how I plan things. Of course, you have to plan things, especially if you're going on vacation and whatever. But to get to the other detail of it, what do I want to do when I get to these places, and just to get to that level of planning. Sometimes I don't do it right. I have some things in my mind, but I don't plan it. And I told someone, I said, I don't do that because I'm a person who has been disappointed so much that when I look so forward to things, it seems like something happens, right? So I train myself to just kind of stay above the surface, take it as it comes, and try not to get too excited about events and things that are coming up, because it seems like what I have in my mind has never really played out like that because of other folks that might be involved, or things just don't work out. And so I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's how I have learned how to cope with certain things in my life that cause me to be disappointed on a frequent basis. So now I have no real what do you call it? If I have no real expectation for some things, then it keeps me from being disappointed so easily. You know, so it's what we do, or what we call ourselves doing, to do what, to protect ourselves, to protect our heart, to protect our feelings, things like that. And so the things that bother me, or have bothered me in the past, that can throw you. There's some things that can just completely just throw you. And so I just try to I'm kind of very casual now about things. And so I'm not so excited about things that are coming because of the fear of what, being disappointed, but it's how I cope. And I do know when to really get excited, when I see that it's really going to happen. And then I can see my emotions getting into a di- different gear, so that I can enjoy myself. And some of the things that I wanted to do, um, I can still try to get those incorporated so that I'm feeling complete, when I leave a certain place. And I'm talking mainly like vacations and things like that. So I just try not to look so forward to things until they actually happen. And so that just because I'm a person that have dealt with so much disappointment, you know, and some of that is rejection, So and what we do once we heal, and how we protect ourselves, from keeping these things from hurting us again so bad. Am I the only one that feels that way? I know that there's someone else out there that may feel the same way. So anyway, so tonight the subject is easy, and it's probably going to be pretty short. And so I put the flyer out late. I have been incredibly busy, but I am committed to this Monday night. I had started a few years ago, and things happened and I had to stop. And now I'm in the process of trying to rebuild this. And so I have to push myself. And the topic tonight is just what? When you just don't feel like it. You know what I mean? When you just don't feel like it. Sometimes you don't feel like it, and that might be physically, or mentally. I mean, it just, I just don't feel like it. And so we have these days. And so the important thing to know is that every day that you have, You don't have to feel so motivated every day, you know. And so this is one of those days I typically try to have Mondays off as an off day because I my hands are, I got like three businesses, and then I have ministry, and then I have family, right? And so trying to make sure that I'm staying balanced, right, is can be a little challenging sometimes. So I'm trying to make sure that I'm staying balanced and giving people in my life, uh, giving people in my life my time, and try to make it undivided attention where I'm not sharing it with the laptop working. You know what I mean? And so sometimes you just don't feel like it. So Mondays is a day I try to have to regroup. Maybe I needed to do laundry today. Let me just be straight up and honest. I needed to do my laundry today, and I didn't. I didn't because I had to go out and I had to work a little bit. So, and I just didn't feel like it. I had a long weekend. I had a long week last week, and I was looking forward to uh, Monday just being my day, which was today, and it didn't turn out that way. I had to go out and meet with some clients. Right. Well, the intention, to be honest, was to meet with some clients. And I went to the appointment that I confirmed on yesterday with two people. And I show up at the appointment, and they told me this was a third person said, "Well, we're not going to do that anymore." And I'm like, "Well, I just talked to two people yesterday." I'm thinking, you guys really could have told me. It took a lot of effort, right, for me to get dressed, go on the other side of town. Some of you know that I live out in the country, and so it takes me about 45 minutes to go most places. And so I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that a little communication could have helped that, because I could have stayed back and just enjoyed my day off. But then you know how it goes. You get dressed, you go out, then you think of the side of town that you're on, and there's some other errands that you can run. And so the next thing I know is afternoon. And when I do get back home, and guess what? I was sleepy. I was tired, because this was the day that I was supposed to be able to rejuvenate. See, you got to take some time. And then I said, well, I have to talk tonight. I didn't do a flyer because I had been so busy. And I said, I don't really know. And I think I told you all last week, I didn't really know what I was going to be talking about, because I usually just rely on God. And so then the thought hit me. That is it. Talk about that. When you just don't feel like it, and so what do you do when you just really don't feel like it? So tonight, for real, for real, when I sat down and I thought about it, what am I going to talk about tonight? And I'm always talking about being honest, right? The honest thing was, I just didn't feel like it. But what happens? I'm here. So how do you push through when you just don't feel like it? You still got to show up sometimes. So let's see. I don't feel like it. It doesn't mean that something is wrong. When you say, like I say, I just don't feel like it, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that something is wrong, right? So let's just wipe that away. Oh, maybe something's going on tonight that she didn't feel like it. No, it does not necessarily mean that something is wrong. Sometimes, you know what? You're just tired. Sometimes you just need a break. And so we look at young mothers that, got young kids, and even now school started back this week for a lot of counties. And the mothers and the fathers and the guardians have been busy trying to get these children ready. I'm so blessed to say that I have finally got through that stage of my life. Now I can watch my daughters do the same thing with their children, and I'm realizing just how much that makes you fatigued. It is so much on the mind, especially if you have more than one child that you're trying to prepare for school, and the requirements that these schools have. Then the kids want clothes, they got to get their hair did, and all this stuff to be ready for the first day of school. And it is. I remember it being it's such a tiring time, and especially if you got kids who dealing with children that are very choosy. They're very choosy, or very like designer stuff, or very, I should say, on the nice side, say very creative in their wardrobe. And so it brings about a challenge for a parent who may not be as creative, and you may not understand the creativity in that child. But, just ask God for wisdom, because He made each and every one of them. And each one will have their own unique personalities. You're going to have the one that say, I don't care. Just, I don't care. I can wear what I had last year as long as it still fit. And you got some others, oh, no way, anybody can see me in what I had on last. Who's going to remember what you wore last year? But you know what I mean. So others worry about what the new style is. Others don't care. So whatever personality of the child that you have, just know that the Creator made them. And if anybody can help you know how to parent them, is going to be the Lord. So you have to ask Him sometimes, especially if we have a child that challenges us. Usually because they're probably very similar to us. Let's just be honest. That you can see yourself in these kids sometimes and be like, man, that's me. How do you get along with yourself? And these kids are challenging you on that. So sometimes, you're just tired. The body needs rest. I was speaking yesterday and I said that, God created the heavens and the earth, all living creatures, mankind, in 6 days. And in the seventh day, He rested. So there comes a time when you can't just keep pushing. You do what needs to be done and make sure that you're taking the rest that you need. Okay. So is it rest or is it withdrawing? So, you got to know the difference. Are you resting or are you withdrawing? Means taking your hand off of it. Are you taking the time to be re-energized or replenished, or to rejuvenate yourself, refresh yourself, or are you pulling away because of some type of a discouragement? You have to know the difference. Is it because I need rest, or is it because there's something else that's pulling me away from it? Sometimes it's what people say. Sometimes people say stuff and they don't mean any harm, but it depends on what mindset or mind frame you're in. You can take these things a different way. Now I'm gonna say something, and my husband probably listening, but he's my best example because that's who I live with. I spend the most time with him. So the night I was getting ready to come out and get ready for the broadcast, this show, and I said, okay, I'm going out, get ready. He said, you wearing that? He said, well, they can't see anyway, right? I said, well, they see, parts of what I'm wearing. And he said, oh, okay, you gonna wear that? I'm thinking, yeah, they only gonna see. You only see what I choose to show you, right? So he was like, well, that's kind of old fashioned, but okay, it's all right. Now, in that moment, I'm already tired. I could have really been discouraged and say, okay, I need to go change. And then I looked at him and I said, you know what? That goes with my subject tonight. What's the subject? when you just don't feel like it. I almost just started to just put a bonnet on my head and just say, when you just don't feel like it, but you still got to show up, right? And I said, not a nerve of him, but I get it. He was just trying to make sure that my presentation was going to be okay tonight, right? That people are going to see me and to make sure that my presentation is right. Well, as I said, people say things to help you, and they're not really trying to offend you. But it depends on where you are. If you had a good day, bad day, or whatever, I could have perceived that very differently. I could have had an argument behind that. I could have gone and just changed my clothes just because I'm thinking about what someone else might think about what I'm wearing. But you don't really see what I'm wearing. I like selling clothes, so to speak. But however, sometimes you got to just let it roll off your shoulder. You know that person did not intend to offend you. They didn't intend to do any of that. It's where you allow your mind to go is how you receive that. So I just kind of laughed. Tonight I laughed. Now another time I may not. It just depends on what else is going on. But I was semi-relaxed because when I came in, I kind of took a little power nap to try to strengthen myself, to replenish a little bit, knowing I needed more time, but it's okay. It gave me a little time to just kind of rejuvenate a little bit. So my mindset at the moment was peaceful. So I was able to take that constructive criticism, is what we call it, because they were only concerned about making sure that I was presenting uh, nicely, right? So you understand how we can take something so light like that and make it a big deal. But I told him to just tie it right in with the topic. I looked at him, I said, Jeff, because I don't feel like it, but I'm pressing and I'm going to do it. But I ain't changing my clothes. If you understand what I mean. So feelings are real, okay? But they don't always need to lead. You know, they don't have to lead. As I already said, you got to learn how to brush that stuff. You got to realize that every time someone says something, it is not intended to be negative. Is the glass half empty or is it half full? It depends on your perspective. How are you looking at this thing? How are you looking at it? So don't make a big deal of something that wasn't intended to be, especially with somebody that has your best interest in their heart. They're just looking out for you. And another thing is he know how I usually like to present myself. And I guess he looking like that is not how you usually look. But tonight, I'm saying this, it jives right in. And it gave me something to share with you tonight. When you just don't feel like it. It don't mean that you don't care, but it just means that you don't feel like it. Now I got to figure out why I feel this way. Well, I already know that I'm tired. So that's where it comes from for me tonight. Now another day, another story, right? So I can acknowledge how I feel without letting that feeling make every decision. You know, I can acknowledge how I feel, but I don't have to give in to everything that I feel. How often does your emotions change? I won't even say within a day. I want to say within 30 minutes. How many times does your emotion change or can it change in a 30-minute interval? I'm not even going to go far. You probably don't even know, what I mean, because it's me and I'm just going through my day. But a phone call changes your emotion. Email might change your emotion a little bit. Somebody coming to your cubicle saying something, it might change it. It's not always negative. Sometimes it uplifts you, right? But I'm just saying that you can't rely on how you feel to lead you. You can't, because you'll be like this. be like a yo-yo. People don't know whether you going or coming. You don't even know whether you going or coming. You don't be led by your emotions. Don't be led by how you feel, because sometimes how they say there's a how do they say that a negative positive. I think what how it goes, a negative positive, things that can come and cancel out something positive. You know, so we have to be careful with that. So another thing is to stop feeling guilty for having an off day. I don't feel guilty because I know that I need an off day. I've been out helping people and doing things, and I haven't taken any time for myself. And so I found that it's very important for me to stay in tune or in touch with me, right? Regardless of all this other stuff that I'm doing, there are some times I got to take care of me. You know, I don't have to necessarily go out and spend money and get pedicures and stuff. I do that. I'm not saying I don't, but it is not necessary for me to have to do something like that just to uh, be in tune with myself. But if that's what I need, then that's what I'll do. It's okay. So what I'm saying is that you still got to take care of you, regardless of what else you're doing, business, personal. You know, so don't feel guilty when you're having a day that you're saying, I just don't feel like it. You know, I just don't feel like it. Because just remember that you don't have to be motivated every day. Some days is your rest day. God worked 6 days, rested on the seventh. Then the whole next week started. And we doing it all over again. That song about doing it all again. We doing it all again. Doing it all again. But you got to take some rest in between. Then, sometimes you rest, you get new insights, new thoughts, and you get new motivation, you get new energy. All that takes place. So sometimes you have to show up anyway, like this tonight. Physically, I just don't feel like it, but I got to show up anyway. How do you do that? How do you show up anyway? You know, I didn't know what I was going to say. I didn't have a written subject or a particular subject. It was going to be sort of an open forum like I had last week. And the important thing was to show up. And so what God has done is he strengthened me for this moment, for this hour, because I chose to show up. Even though I didn't physically feel like it, right? But for real, I didn't want to miss it. I didn't want to miss it because I'm working on being consistent. I hope that helps somebody. I'm working on being consistent. So I could not give in to my feelings and letting my feelings lead me to say, we're going to cancel tonight. Why? Because I need rest. I will just go to bed earlier, right? But sometimes you have to just push and show up. But make sure that when you've done whatever was necessary, that you step back and you take the time that you need for yourself. That is very important. You can't continue to give out to others unless you take time for yourself. Because after a while, you won't have anything to give. You can only drive on a reserve tank of gas for so long. You can only drive on a reserve tank of gas for so long, and then guess what? If you don't stop to that gas station and put some petroleum in that car, in that tank, it's gonna soon what? Put you on the side of the road. And your body and your mind is like that. The body heals, from my understanding, when you're resting. And when you're sleeping and you're getting proper rest, how the body was really designed to heal itself. But it takes the proper amount of rest, right? For little things to heal. When you don't need surgery and stuff like that, then that's a different story. But for the most part, just like you have a cut on your finger, you know, the body heals itself. Your fingernail can come off, and you might even forget about it, that it came off, because one day there's another nail there. You don't necessarily feel it growing. You really don't even see it growing. You see the progress of it. You see the progress. Oh, wow, it's coming back. Then you forget because you don't really feel it. While you are sleeping, your body is healing. So it is important to get rest. Then I want to say that God can meet you after you move. Sometimes if you don't move, I could have stayed on the sofa putting excuses in my mind about why I couldn't do this tonight. But because I decided I'm going to push past what I feel, even though I just didn't want to do it physically, right? But I'm going to press and I'm going to push God. I'm going to stay consistent. Guess what? He showed up. He gave me the strength that I need to get through this tonight. And I'm thankful. I'm really thankful for it. So sometimes we're waiting for a feeling. And, that's deceiving. It's not about a feeling. You wait for a particular feeling before you even take a step. No, you got to start stepping out. Trust and believe God in whatever area it is, and just believe that He's gonna show up for you right at your time of need and give you just what you needed. And I know tonight a lot of this is I'm talking about physical strength, but that is not just about the physical strength. It's about whatever in your life you can relate this lesson to. Whatever in your life that wherever that area is that you're struggling with, and so you can take these words and you can have it to fit in your situation, So don't allow your feelings to lead you. They're there. You got to know when to push past them, right? And not let yourself be led by how you feel, because it changes. And just understand that God will show up for you when you show up to be accountable, when you show up to do what's necessary. He's gonna be right there for you. So, question is, and I want to let you go early tonight. What haven't you been doing because you just don't feel like it? There's something you can admit to, something that you haven't been doing just because you don't feel like it. Now, the other check is it because you're withdrawing from it, or is it because you're tired? You got to understand the difference in whether you're withdrawing from it or whether you're just resting. Which one is it? And if you are withdrawing, then you have to ask yourself, why am I withdrawing from this? Is this something that's important in my life, or is it important for someone else that I do this? Then God, give me the strength that I need, right? Because I've got to still show up and get some things done. So Galatians 6:9 says, don't become weary in doing good. A lot of us are tired because, as I said, we help a lot of people. We do a lot of things, not necessarily for us, but for maybe our ministry or our family or whatever. And sometimes we do get weary because people don't really have, some people don't have the appreciation and don't understand sometimes the sacrifices that you make in order to show up in these particular areas. Some things you're saying, I really don't have to do this, and perhaps you don't. But the reason that you're doing it is usually for a bigger cause or a greater cause, something greater than yourself. But if we focus on how people receive what we're doing, because you got people that's envious, that's jealous, you got people that are are going to be career victims. You know, you got people that's just never going to be pleased or satisfied. But God says for you to not get weary in doing good. Keep pressing and keep doing what you feel that God uh, has called you to do. You know, don't stop being a helping hand unless that season or that project is over, right? So, um, so sometimes faith says rest. Sometimes faith says move. But the wisdom is knowing which one God is telling you to do. Is he saying, don't worry about that tonight. Go ahead and rest. Sometimes he'll cause the power to go out where you headed to because you need to go get some rest. I'm out there tonight. I'm way out there tonight. But I'm just saying God can cause some interruptions on your behalf. How about that? God can cause some interruptions on your behalf because you haven't taken the proper time to even sometimes prepare the way that you should for some things because you've been busy. And so sometimes God will cause something to intervene that will give you a little more time so that when it's rescheduled, right, some things get postponed. And sometimes that's good, you know what I mean? Because you may not have been in the position to give yourself in a way that was needed for whatever this event was going to be, right? So if you need to rest, take your rest. If you need to cry, take your cry. But don't make any permanent decision on a temporary feeling. Don't make any decisions, major decisions on a temporary feeling. I'm tired. Mentally, I'm tired. Physically, I'm tired. You know what this is saying? Don't make any decisions right now. Wait until you're rejuvenated. Wait until you're rested. Guess what? You'll see things a lot clearer. You know, you'll see things a lot clearer. Then you'll be able to make some decision. Right. So for real, just showing up, I feel like I won. I don't know if anybody's on watching me tonight, but that was not the point. The point was that I needed to push through and show up. Maybe it was a test to see if I was going to give in to how I feel versus showing up because that's what I needed to do. So, God, I pray that I passed this test and I showed up for your people, Lord. And I pray that somebody was encouraged under the sound of my voice, wherever you may be. Because for real, sometimes you just don't feel like it. I didn't want to comb my hair. I didn't want to change my clothes. 5 minutes before time, I decided to put something on my face, my lip. I mean, you know, I'm like, I got to show up and I got to show up right. You know, I can't just really wear how I feel. And I'm here to tell you that it's okay. When you want to say, I just don't feel like it. But know whether it's because you're tired or understand if it's something that's causing you to withdraw. Has there been some disappointments or some discouragement? You know what I mean? So we're always, you know, running this little test on ourselves and make sure you're showing up where you expected to show up. And if you're tired, take your rest. Whatever you need to do, it's all about internal healing. You know, you can't push yourself. So if you're running right now on reserve tank, then you need to pull over and you need to go fill up. Now, if that's rest, so let it be. Right? And give yourself what you need. This is your time to give yourself what you need. So maybe tonight you don't feel like it. but that's okay. Figure out why. Do what you need to do. Take your rest. Have your cry. Pray if that's what you need. But again, don't make any permanent decisions on a temporary feeling. It would be a mistake. Showing up is the victory. And I salute you tonight in the precious name of Jesus. My prayer is that you have yourself a blessed week. Take the rest that you need. Show up. So by Wednesday, you shouldn't be saying, I just don't feel like it. That means you didn't take the rest that you need. Yeah. Anita Kelly, AK Ministries, for real, for real. Thank you tonight. I look forward to being back next week. I'm working on having a guest with me. If I get that worked out, I'll try to let you know as soon as I can. If there's any topic again that you want me to talk about, make sure you send it to me. My number's on the screen. You can always inbox me through Facebook, and I'll see how to get that topic covered. So God bless you, and may God be with you. Just because you don't feel like it, I still need you to show up. That is the victory. God bless you. Good night.